Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Welcome to Congregation Beit Tikva, to our weekly Shabbat evening service. And special thanks to our three musicians, Jolene Gear, Wendy, and Alma Dankoff. And of course, our recorder, Lela Dawkins, who takes very good care of all the things that need to be done here at Beit Tikva. So we're going to begin, as we usually do, on page 128 with a beautiful Sabbath melody, Yedid Nefesh, O source of mercy, draw your servant into your arms. Middle of page 128. Let's turn to 645, the back of our Siddurim. Top of the page are the beautiful words, L'chilach. You shall go to a land that I will show you. Words from Genesis chapter 12, the story of God speaking to Abram and Sarai. Let's sing together, page 645.
On your
We turn now to the blessing over the Sabbath candles. Let's read together. We're on page 121, top of the page, and then we'll sing the blessing for the Shabbat lights. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light. Let's sing together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. We'll turn a few pages and come to 126. On 126, we'll read together this beautiful meditation. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics and no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created, and to work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us, and to bring that vision to life. So we turn now to the Psalms, which lead us into the prayer for every Shabbat evening, and we always begin with Psalm 95. Psalm 95, the words you'll find on page 130. And we sing together and then we read together in English. Come, let us sing joyously to Adonai. Raise a shout for our rock and deliverer. Let us come into God's presence with praise. Let us raise a shout for God in song. For Adonai is a great God, a great ruler of all divine beings. In God's hands are the depths of the earth. The peaks of the mountains are God's. God's is the sea, God made it, and the land which God's hands fashioned. Come, let us bow down and kneel. Bend the knee before Adonai, our Maker. For Adonai is our God, and we are the people God tends, the flock in God's care. Who of you but heed God's charge this day? We'll continue with Psalm 98 in the middle of 133, middle of the page. A psalm. Sing to Adonai a new song, for God has worked wonders. God's right hand, God's holy arm, has won God's victory. Adonai has manifested God's victory, has displayed God's triumph in the sight of the nations. God was mindful of God's steadfast love and faithfulness towards the house of Israel. All the ends of the earth beheld the victory of our God.
Raise a shout to Adonai, all the earth, break into joyous songs of praise.
So let's turn to the beautiful words of Lela Dawkins, traditional Friday night melody, as you know, composed by the Kabbalists, the Sephardi rabbis, who studied and worked together in the late 1500s in the north of Israel. On page 138. Let's read one more psalm, or excerpt from Psalm 93, and the words for Psalm 93 are in the middle of page 141. Adonai is sovereign, God is robed in grandeur. Adonai is robed, God is girded with strength. The world stands firm, it cannot be shaken. Your throne stands firm from of old, from eternity you have existed. The ocean sounds Adonai, the ocean sounds its thunder, the ocean sounds its pounding. Above the thunder of the mighty waters, more majestic than the breakers of the sea, is Adonai majestic on high. Your decrees are indeed enduring, holiness befits your house, Adonai for all times. So we turn to the words of the Chatzi Kaddish. We're on 144. And if you're able at home, you should stand as we begin the prayers before we come to the Shema Yisrael. Yitkada v'yitkada Shemei Rabba
Yivrachirutei Amlik Malchutei V'chayechon U'byomechon U'chayedecho Beit Yisrael Bagala Bagala U'bizman Kariv Imru Amen Yehesh Me'raba Mevorach De'olam Yomei Hamaya Yitbarach V'yishtabach Yitbar V'yitramah V'yitnaseh V'yitadav V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shemei L'Kudashah B'richu Lela Mikol B'yachata V'shirata Tushvechata V'nechemata Amiram Yamah Amen.
We turn the page, we'll sing together the call to worship, Baruchu et Adonai Hamborach.
Baruchu et Adonai Hamborach. Baruch Adonai Hamborach Le'olam Vaed.
Continuing on page 148, the first blessing before the Shema Yisrael. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time, changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzvaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening. Baruch atah Adonai, Amariv Arabim. The second blessing, known as Ahavat Olam, we read together on page 150. Everlasting love you offer your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people, Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amos Yisrael. Let's sing together the Shema Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod, Malchuto Le'olam Vaed. So if you're standing, it's time to sit down and relax. And we'll continue with the next verses from Deuteronomy chapter 6. We're on the top of 154, reading first in Hebrew and then the English of the V'ahavta. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol melodecha v'hayu ha'dvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'beitecha u'v'lechtecha b'derech u'v'shavtecha u'v'kumecha u'shartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha u'ktavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha L'man tizkaru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim le'lohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lechem le'elohim ani Adonai Elohechem. Amen. shall love Adonai your God with all your heart,
with all your soul, and with all your might.
Take to heart these instructions with which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand, and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus you shall remember to observe all my commandments and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai your God. Adonai Elohechem Emet. So let's continue now with the beautiful words of Mi Chamocha, also from the book of Exodus. We're on page 158, top of the page, singing together. So we come now to the special blessing, Hashkivenu, which we recite on Friday evenings, asking God to shield us, protect us from our enemies, from the shadow of the outside world, all the plagues that beset us at this time, to watch over us, deliver us, and bring us unto goodness on the Sabbath day. Wendy and Alma are going to offer their flute duet. So we'll turn a few pages and we come to 162. The words also from the book of Exodus, Vishamru, to guard and keep the Sabbath day. Top of page 162. blessings, the 7 essential blessings of this Sabbath service called the Tefillah. You all know Tefillah means prayer. In this case, it's also the name, or the overarching name for the 7 blessings. So we're on page 164. Tefillah means prayer with a capital P, and we begin with a prelude from Psalm 51. And if you're able and comfortable at home, try and stand up and sing with us. Adonai sifatatita uviagit ilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor V'Hara, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tokim, V'Konei HaKol, V'Zofer Chasdei Avot Imahor, V'Nei Dinulah, V'Nei B'neihem, L'man Shemo Yahava, Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Yisrael. Page 168. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mekayeh hakol atah le'oshiach, Mekalkel hayim v'chesed, Mekayeh hakol v'rachamim rabim, Tzomech noflim v'rafeh cholim, U'matir asurim, U'mekayeh emunato, V'shenei afar, Michamocha ve'al gevurot, U'midom elach, Melech memit, U'mechayeh, U'matzliach Yeshua, V'ne'anata, V'chayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Together, the third blessing in English. The words are on page 171. Days pass and years vanish, and we walk sightless among miracles. God, fill our eyes with seeing and our minds with knowing. Let there be moments when your presence, like lightning, illumines the darkness in which we walk. Help us to see wherever we gaze that the bush burns unconsumed, and we, clay touched by God, will reach out for holiness and exclaim in wonder, how filled with awe is this place, we did not know it. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. So everyone's invited to be seated and relax. We continue with the fourth blessing, the sanctification of the Sabbath day, and we'll read in English. We're on 173. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Let's read from the psalmist in the middle of page 175. You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, and our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us,
when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all is real, and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, shotcha levadcha v'yira na'avod. The sixth blessing, a blessing of gratitude and thanksgiving. We'll read together in English, page 177. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth, which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, atov shimcha, u'lecha na'eh lahodot. And we conclude the tefillah with the traditional Shalom Rav, the blessing of peace for our people, for all peoples. We're on page 178. Let's take a few moments for our own personal prayers and meditations. of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you. Be acceptable to you. Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Lord, my rock and redeemer.
So this Shabbat, we have a marvelous Torah portion, a long portion called Ki Tavo. Ki Tavo, from the opening sentence, which means when you come, literally, when you come into the land, and God will give us an inheritance. And what is this all about? First of all, it's speaking to each and every one of us. It's written in the singular in grammar, and it means that we're commanded to bring a basket of first fruits, a gift of thanksgiving that shall be brought to the sanctuary where the priests are in charge. And this basket of first fruits is a symbol of the produce, of the goodness of the land, the fertility of the land. More importantly, it's a symbol that we are grateful for all that the divine has done for us. It's not because of our labors or our talents or greatness that the land produces crops and yields vines and so forth and so on. It's ultimately, it all comes from the divine. So it's a very important commandment to bring the gift of the first fruits. And as I said many times in classes, it reminds us to cultivate an attitude of gratitude. There's so much in this Torah portion that talks about giving thanks for all the goodies that we enjoy in this world. In fact, in chapters 27 and 28 of Deuteronomy, there are various wonderful sentences which remind us, blessed shall you be when you come in here, and blessed shall you be when you go out, which is a traditional Jewish greeting that you can offer in Hebrew when you see someone, especially if you happen to be in Israel. More importantly, what it's saying is we're supposed to say thanks literally every day. And every time we offer a blessing, we're fulfilling the commandment to recite 100 blessings each and every day of our lives. On the other hand, there's also a kind of a stern, scary warning in chapters 27 and 28. If we don't follow God's teaching, if we don't follow the commandments, there's something called the tochacha, a harsh warning, which tells us that things may not turn out so well. Things may not be exactly as we thought they might be. And that tochacha is one of two famous harsh warnings that we find in the 5 books. We have the other one earlier in the story of Leviticus. So I really want to talk about chutzpah. You've all heard the word chutzpah, and I'm sure you've met lots of chutzpahdik people who exhibit their chutzpah, however you want to translate it. It's akin to the kid who stands in the courtroom in front of the judge and has just finished killing his mother and father and pleads for mercy from the judge because now he's an orphan. That's chutzpah, right? Think of West Side Story and that famous song. There is a famous story about chutzpah also in the beginning of Torah when Abraham is dealing with God and he is living in the city or very near the land of Sodom and Gomorrah, which was probably down in the southern area below Jerusalem. And he learns that God wants to destroy the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, remember? And he says to God, how can you do such a thing? To slay the innocent as well as the guilty? Shall not the judge of all the earth deal justly? That takes chutzpah to fight with God as Abraham did almost 4,000 years ago. There's another incredible illustration of chutzpah that we find in this week's Haftarah portion. You know, the past month we've been reading Haftarot from the book of Isaiah. There are 7 special Haftarah readings that precede the beginning of the new year. And in this Haftarah, we have again Isaiah crying out to God, and he's giving a message of hope to a despondent people, a people who are really despairing of ever coming back to the land of Israel. How do they know it? What is their assurance that they will return to the land of Israel? And at this dark time, the prophet, with his audacity, says, you shall return. You will go back to Jerusalem. The land will be restored unto you. And he writes in chapter 60, nations shall walk by your light, and kings by your shining radiance. That's an incredible message of consolation, given the fact that all the Israelites, all the Jews are living in Babylonia, and all they can think about is their exile, their enforced, in many cases, indentured servitude. Once we were a proud people, and then our sovereignty was stripped from us. And Isaiah is recounting why we lost our sovereignty, why we lost the land of Israel. But then he says, God has made an eternal promise to the Jewish people. Just because we've gone into exile doesn't mean we shall disappear. Because the incredible reality is that every time the Jewish nation has gone off to another country, we have, so to speak, risen from the ashes, the phoenix from the ashes, and become great in that new land. Whether we went to Southern Europe or in Germany and France in the early Middle Ages, whether we went into Babylonia in the 6th century and flourished and became the leaders of Babylonian society through the 700s and 800s, wherever we've gone, we've always managed to succeed. That's part of what Isaiah's message, that chutzpahdik message, is really about. We are a light unto the nations, and no matter what happens to us, we manage to shine brightly. There are many instances of others commenting and saying the same thing in the modern literary world. Remember Pearl Buck, one of the great novelists in the late 1900s? Pearl Buck said, I've never seen a country, speaking of Israel, or a culture which was not the better for having the contribution of the Jewish people. And a long, long time ago, in the beginning of the American world, the American civilization, Matthew Arnold wrote, as long as the world lasts, all who want to make progress in righteousness will come to Israel for inspiration, as the people who have the sense for righteousness and they understand the suffering of the stranger. So what am I trying to say here with these classic words? I'm trying to say that it takes a lot of courage, a lot of chutzpah, a lot of strength to build oneself up, even in a strange land. There is a theory that we Jewish people have actually survived and done better outside of the land of Israel than within the borders of the land of Israel. Just think of the story of Joseph, way, way back in the Bible. Joseph became great, as you know, because he was appointed prime minister of Egypt. And thus, we were able to flourish in a new civilization. I'm thinking now about the land of Israel today and how that country has become not only the leader in technology, science, and innovation, but it is, as you and I have to remember, the only democracy in the Middle East. It is a little country, barely 70 plus years old, severely criticized and chastised and stepped on by so many other nations around the world. And yet, if you think about it, Israel has done extraordinary things, accomplished more in the last 7 decades than any other nation, perhaps, in all of the world. And that's what it takes chutzpah. It takes chutzpah to be so successful. So we have to remember that
When we kindle the lights of Shabbat, we're also kindling the light of our people. We're kindling the light of hope, of dreams, of a vision for the future. And with that massive dose of chutzpah, we will continue to do great things for the world. Shabbat Shalom. So we'd like to sing, Alma and Wendy, myself, and all of us together, the Misha Berach, the prayer for healing. If you have a prayer book in front of you, excuse me, the words are on page 371. 371. Sung these beautiful words, we offer blessings and prayers for the following friends and members of our congregation. Linda Wassner, Toby Karps, Helen Fine, Doreen Hertig, Lynn Kelly, Melanie Hornstein, Flo Vinnick, Casey Cantor, and many others. We pray for their physical and spiritual strengthening and uplifting of their hearts during this Shabbat and the week to come. Just a very brief message. You know, this has been a very challenging 6 months for our congregation and every congregation around the country. We need your support. Please stand with us as we plan for this new year, which is only about 12 or 13 days away. For 5781, please send your donations and your support to us through our office. If you need assistance, just call us at 505-820-2991. We greatly appreciate your support. Let's turn to our closing prayers. We're on page 586. We always stand together and sing the Aleinu prayer, and the words for Aleinu are in the lower portion of the page on 586. Aleinu l'shabeh l'adon hakol, l'ateiru l'yotzei reishit, shelo asanu ligoyei haratzon, v'lo zamanu k'mishpachot adama, shelo zamenu gahem, v'gor aleinu k'kol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishacharim u'modim, little poem before we come to the Mourner's Kaddish. On page 583, 583. In the rising of the sun and its going down, we remember them. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember them. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, we remember them. In the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. When we're weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we're lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them. So long as they live, we too shall live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them. On this Sabbath of their Yahrzeit memorial, we turn in our hearts to those who we have lost in years gone by and in just this past year. And with reverence and devotion, we remember their names now. Dr. Jerry Beloff, Father Beth Beloff, Merrick Cohen, cousin of Barb Lamont. We were called today as the first yahrzeit, the conclusion of the first yahrzeit for Dr. Jordan Kent Davis, beloved member of our congregation, husband of Gail Davis, father of Randall, Dr. Randall and Sarah, father of Beth, and Kevin, Julie, and Joshua, and all of Dr. Davis's wonderful grandchildren. We remember him this Shabbat. He passed away exactly 1 year ago. We remember as well Sam Goldenberg, friend of our congregation, and we recall Frank Serra, father of Lorraine and Yanko. Let's turn to the Kaddish prayer, 598, page 598, and we'll read the Kaddish together. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yamad yibrach chirutei, v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yom echon, v'chayei b'chol Beit Yisrael, v'agala b'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach, le'olam homei hamaya, yitbarach yishtabach, yitba'ar v'yitracham, yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal, shmei d'kudusha b'richu, le'ela min kol v'chata, shirata, tishbachata, v'nechemata, Damiran b'yama b'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shamaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael, Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael. We lift the cup of wine, we recite, as we always do, all around the world, the Kiddush, which means the sanctification of the Shabbat. The words are on page 123 in our prayer books. Page 123. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei beri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzah b'anu, v'shabbat shadsho Yabau Ratzon in Kilonu, Zikaron Lemase Bereshit, Kiu Yom Tequila, Lemikra Kodesh, Zecher L'Tziat Mitzrayim, Kibanu Achata, Yotanu Kidashta, Mikol Amim, V'Shabbat Kodshecha, Yama Uratzon, in Kaltanu, Baruch Adonai, Bekadesh HaShabbat. Amen. L'chaim. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Have a beautiful and restful Shabbat.
Shabbat Shalom.